when you get to this question here, is new plywood needed? Let me show you photos of how to determine that. So every time you want to look inside the attic, you don't necessarily have to go inside the attic, but you want to open the door to the attic, shine a light in there. If the homeowner is right there with you, you can show them. This is a great teaching opportunity. Anytime you can educate the homeowner, you're making your job easier and you're giving yourself more clout and credibility. And that's what you want to do. So shine a light, show the homeowner if they're there with you. Hey, look, you see how every other board is missing? That's how they built in the 1950s or whenever the house was built. And you see all that really old looking pieces of wood. All of these, those are wood shingles or wood shake. And that's just how they built. That's the original roof of the house. So this house that was built in 1915, that's 100 years old. These wood shingles are 100 years old. We're going to tear all that off when they remove the old roof, and it's going to leave skip sheeting. So you're going to look at like a naked skeleton of your roof after the roof is torn off. And a couple of things, some dust and debris is going to come inside the attic. We can give you some plastic to cover up, but you want to make sure that anything super fragile or delicate is taken out, because we can't control gravity. We can cover up, but we can't control gravity. Dust and debris is going to come in. And also, to be up to code, this kind of structure is no longer up to code. So the city won't let us put solar. They won't let us do a re-roof. They won't let you do air conditioning. Anything that requires a permit is going to require solid sheeting to be up to current code. So current code is solid sheeting. And that means once we tear everything off, we're going to put down new plywood over the top of that skip sheeting. So what does that look like? Here's how it looks. Here's a roof with skip sheeting. You can see in the top right here, and you can see that OSB plywood has been put right on the top. Here's another roof with skip sheeting, and you can see plywood put down over the top. So if you look at an attic and you see this, it already has solid sheeting. You're good to go. You don't need new plywood. But if you look at an attic and you see this, you see wood shake on the other side, then it has skip sheeting and it needs plywood, so you'll need to include that. Now, if you open the attic and you look inside and you see this, where it's like 1x6 boards, but it's not missing every other board. They're butted up next to each other. In almost every jurisdiction, this is totally fine. You don't need new plywood. You have solid sheeting. In very rare jurisdictions, in most of SoCal, you're okay. But in the city of Whittier, Whittier is special. They have a city ordinance where a 1x6 like this, even though it's solid sheeting and it meets code everywhere else, there's a special city ordinance in Whittier. Even those roofs will need new plywood over the top unless it's tongue and groove. So this is another view of like 1x6 sheeting. When you have like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch or like some very minor gap in between, that's okay. You don't need plywood. But if it's any bigger than about 1 inch, then you'll need plywood because that's skip sheeting. So 1x6 like this, you should be okay. Any larger gaps than that, and you'll need plywood unless it's Whittier, and then you always need plywood unless it has plywood. And there are also like open beam or vaulted ceilings where you're going to have tongue and groove wood. So in Whittier, if you have tongue and groove wood, you don't need plywood. But if it's plank, like 1x6 like this, where it's just flat on the sides and they butt up against each other, then in Whittier, it would need plywood. Everywhere else, it's okay. Tongue and groove is always okay everywhere. And then even if you see shiplap like this along the eaves, you have to look inside the attic. Don't judge the eaves, because most roofs with skip sheeting that look like this, it'll look like this inside the attic, and it'll have shiplap on the eaves, on the exposed portions. And then sometimes you'll look inside the attic and you'll see that it's just plywood. Great, you're fine. You don't need plywood. You already have it. If you see black paper on top of that skip sheeting, that means you need plywood. That means that it's just the underlayment that goes under the roofing material that's on top of that skip sheeting. So plywood, you're okay. Plywood over skip sheeting, you're okay. Skip sheeting with black or with wood shake, you need plywood. Skip sheeting with plywood, you're okay. 1x6 or 1x8 sheeting butted up against each other, you're okay. You don't need new plywood. And then 1x6 in the city of Whittier, you need plywood, even though it's okay everywhere else.